So welcome guys, and in this part we're going to start with the backend. We're going to be building the APIs first and be testing them, and we're going to be using some packages. We're going to be using Nest Passport. We're going to be using JWT for the authentication. So let's quickly get started. We're going to be using Node.js like I explained earlier, and we're going to be using NestJS as the framework that we're going to be using to build this. So let's just quickly get started. And on the front end, we're going to be using React. So let's start with the back end first. And the first thing we want to do is we want to install the framework that we're going to be using, which is the NestJS. So let's click on documentation. Now let's go to installation. Let me just look for installation, get started or something. First step, yeah, that's to start this new project. So if you're starting for the first time, um, you can do npm and install the NestJS CLI, but I've already installed it, so I'll be starting with this step. But if this is your first time, just go ahead and click on copy this and paste it to your terminal. And mind you, you need to have Node.js installed. You need to have Node.js installed, probably the latest version or something. So when you click on download, go to Node.js, or the link to this, I'm going to leave the link to this in the description. So this is just go ahead and click on Mac OS installer, and if you're using Windows, click ahead and install the Windows version. So I already have Node.js. You can go ahead and do that now if you don't have it. Then we're going to create a new project from that. I already installed the CLI, so you might need to do that. So let's go ahead, and I have um, an empty folder open. So let's go ahead and create a workspace for what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to come to desktop project. Um, this is basically where I want my project to stay. So I'm going to create a new folder right here. I'm going to call it Auth, and that's the new folder. I'm going to open that. And right now we have an empty folder, so I'm going to create a new folder which will hold the backend of for our project. So our project backend will be in this folder. So this is just like a nice way of structuring things. And let's go ahead and open a terminal for that. And right here in this terminal, I want to go into that folder, and we need to now paste this command right here. But then looking at it now, let's just go back and paste this, and let's call it backend. And the reason for this is that the command will create a new folder. So we have already created a folder earlier. That's just going to replace the folder that we created earlier. So it's asking if I want to use yarn or npm. I'm going to be using yarn, but if you've not installed yarn, you can go ahead and use npm, but I will advise you to use yarn. So go over to yarn website. You can, there is a command to install it. I think you install it using npm. All right, so we're done installing the packages that we need. Then right now is to the next thing right now is to get started with the structuring of the project. So I'm going to start with some basic things, like the package that we need to install to make this work. Remember, we're building an authentication system, so we need to have some basic configurations and packages that we need to install. So the first package that we need to install is install some type ORM for our database. We need to install NestJS JWT. We need to install Axios. We need to install s- some things. We just need to install some things in general. So let's get started one after the other. Now, the first thing we need to do is let's just go and start with the structuring of our project. You see all this, I'm going to delete all this. I'm going to delete this. So, and the reason for that is I want to have a single entry point for my application. We want to have a single entry point to our application. So we're going to delete all this. On the main file, we're going to make some changes on the main file. And the first one is we uh, need to put all this in an env, and to do that we need a config service. We need a config service, and let's just start with all that. So the port number, if we should go ahead and run this project, let's just run this project for now. With the port number, I love using port 4000. So let's just go ahead and say next start dev. So this application is starting right now, and you can see the application has started. It's an empty project for now, so we need to do some things right there. So if I should go to my browser and we open that port, localhost port 4000, you can see it's working. So we don't just have like a value that is being returned on this URL. So that's why we have this error. So the first thing we need to do is to use the env file so that we can put our port number and everything inside. So I'm going to create an env file .env, and right here we're going to give our do some basic settings. We're going to say app name should be authentication, or the authentication service. We can call it authentication service. We can give a port number. Now we have a port number right now, and right here we can use the config service to import those envs file that we've done. So before that, let's just give this a type so that we know what exactly we're working with. So this express application, that's the type for this app. And right here we can go ahead and import the config service. So let's do const um, config config service. Okay, we don't have the config service right now, so let's just go ahead install that from the NestJS common this thing. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to comment out this for now, and let's check if we have that installed before. Okay, we have it. Is it installed? No, we don't have it installed, so we're going to go ahead and install it right now. So if we should go back to NestJS, let's just go ahead and say nest/config. So we need to install that. If we go to the documentation, that's not me. um Let me just quickly use AI for this. So let's go ahead and install it. Let's create a new this thing. We're going to say yarn add config, and this is going to install the nestjs config file for us. So let's just have that, and that has been installed. So we have the config modules right now, and let me just go back and say service equal to app dot get, and we pass in the config config service. Okay, so we need to import that. Let's just import that from config, and we have that right now. So the next thing we need to do is we need to use that particular port that we're importing. So let's just take that port, and that would have a type of number here, there, and yeah. So we can say type of number, let's just cast it as numbers just to be sure. So the next thing is to actually use that port, but we're going to use it in a callback type of way. So we're going to collect the ports and we're going to call a function, and right here we can do a console and we can say application is running on this particular port right here. So apart from that, we can come ahead and say by default 4000. Just if we don't have the config, if we don't have the variable in the config, we can do something like this, and this just default back to port 4000. So we have that, and if I should go ahead and we run this application, let's try that again. We're having an error. NestJS could not find config. Is the provider? Yes. And the reason is we need to actually add this to the app module. Yeah, we need to actually add it to the app module, and we need to specify that we want this config file to be global. So we're going to call that, we're going to say config, and on the root of we want to make it global. So this should work right now, and you can see application is running on port 4000. And if I should go ahead and if I should go ahead and refresh this, nothing changes.